Hey, what's up guys? This video is actually part 2 of a collaboration that I'm doing with the Waterjet channel. If you missed the first part, go ahead and check that out. We've got a link to it in the description below. We made a petrified 2x4. Yes, that's right, not a regular wood 2x4, petrified wood 2x4. This took a lot of work and we couldn't have done it without the Waterjet. We had to cut out our rough 2x4 shape, and then I used $160 of diamond tile saw blades in order to cut this nice and precisely and flat. And I do know that was not the best saw to use for that. There's lapidary saws that will do a much better job, but it's what I had on the hand, and lapidary saws are thousands of dollars. So we got ourselves a nice 2x4. It's a really good, just kind of funny joke. It looks like wood. You can see the wood grain pattern on it. And we made the joke that this is what they built their houses out of in the Stone Age. So that was really funny. It was a lot of fun. I like being part of just kind of for fun projects like that. And now I've got this slab here, which is just thick enough, perfect for a ring actually. And so obviously I make rings, so I'm gonna make a ring out of it. The trick to super hard materials like this, and like I've done hard materials in the past. I've done, let's see, I did the dinosaur bone one, I did the Euperlite. Those are hard materials, those are rock, they're fragile, very tricky to work with. This is like twice as hard. This is crazy. It's like quartz in a lot of places, got a lot of really hard spots, and the whole thing overall, very hard material. So it's gonna be quite the challenge. I might have to do something like, I've got this piece of brass. I could make a liner for the ring that would reinforce it if I have issues with it cracking. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna do my best to make it just pure petrified wood though, because I think that kind of gives us the best look. I'm gonna cut through it with my first hole saw here. It's a diamond plated hole saw, it'll cut through here. It might take a while, but it'll work. So after I cut through here, I don't want to cut the outside of it because once that separates, it's going to crack and shatter into a million pieces. So I'll cut out the inside, then I'll figure out how to do the outside of it. I've got all these little diamond Dremel attachments, got all the different sizes, everything like that. So it's just going to kind of be a learn as I go, do my very best, and we're going to see what we can come up with. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I've got my drill press already here. What I went and did is I put some, this is just CA glue, super glue on the back here. That should give it just a little bit of extra security, keeping it held together. That way when I cut through, it'll kind of hold it all together rather than have it violently rip apart. And then I've got this piece of plywood on the bottom here. That's just soft. That prevents it from being in contact with the harsh steel table that the drill press has. Just keep stuff, again, just from shattering. You want to be careful. So I'm going to cut the first hole with the smaller hole saw. Line it up. I dotted out a kind of rough estimate. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a dotted pattern around here that I'm just kind of going after. I tried to look and guess where any natural fractures would be and try to avoid them. Now I'll just clamp it all in place. Don't want this moving around. Also want to be careful. I don't want too much clamping pressure on it overall because that can make problems where it might crack. So I've got this in place now. I've got water here. I'm going to be keeping it lubricated, keep it cool. And I'll just slowly go through. And I'm going to try to stop before I get to the very end and then just call that quits. And then repeat the exact same process with this bigger hole saw. And that way it won't be, like I said, a violent like ripping action when it cuts all the way through. When I'm done though, I can go over and use my Dremel and then cut from the back side and then use that to just gently separate it from the rest of the material. All right, that took 5 minutes just to get through on this first one. Just to give you an idea of how hard that is, you could sometimes, a lot of materials you could get through in less than 30 seconds, even 10 seconds if you're being super aggressive. I was being fairly aggressive, still being a little bit careful. That took over 5 minutes. Crazy. I just went really gentle towards the end there, and I literally just let it feed itself by gravity. I didn't put any down pressure on it. And I decided to just let it go all the way through. It was really hard to gauge the depth and I couldn't tell where I was needing to stop. If I stopped too soon, then I'd have a lot of material to cut through, and I really did not want to have to do that just by hand with the Dremel. So I decided to keep it going. It seemed to work out all right. All right, now I'm putting in the bigger hole saw. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the outer diameter. This time around, I really don't wanna go through because I don't want the material separating and causing it to get flung around on the inside of the hole saw. That'll be really bad for it. It could break it apart. So I'm gonna be careful and stop before then. All right, let's take a look at this. So I'll just quickly explain what I did. You noticed I flipped it over and went at it from behind. And I thought of something, I thought it was pretty clever. So after I had cut through here probably about 2/3 of the way, I went in and I filled a couple of the gaps with the CA glue. And what that's going to do is when I cut through from behind, as soon as I get through all of the petrified wood, then I'll have the glue still holding it in place over here. And that'll keep it from kind of stripping out and flinging around and breaking. So now I've made it all the way through, but I just have the glue holding it together. So, gotta figure out how to get rid of that. Should be pretty easy with the blowtorch, or I could just use like a jeweler's saw or something. All right, I've got my blowtorch here. I'm going to carefully heat this up. Try not to overheat the petrified wood, and then just destroy the bond with the glue. Have it separate. All right, I got it separated. I used a combination of heat from a blowtorch as well as a jeweler's saw to just go in and clean it up, get the remnants out. And surprisingly, it's held up really well to this point. I was really worried we'd have some fracturing. So things are looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and reinforce it with a brass liner just because I'm so worried it's gonna wanna crumble. I've already got this edge here. It's kind of chipped when I was doing the drilling with the outer hole saw. So I wanna do everything I can to preserve this, keep it protected. So I'll put on that liner, and then we'll start working on shaving down the outside and polishing it up. Alright, so you could see in the video, I got this to size. I could glue it right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and hollow out the center first. I'd much rather not have this on here while I'm working on the brass because I don't want it to hit on anything accidentally. So I'll drill out the center, get it close to being to size, but not too close. And then I'll probably part this off as well, and then I'll glue it together. Alright, that was really straightforward. I love working with brass. It machines really well, really easily. So I've got a piece that looks like this now. If I put the outer petrified wood on it, it holds it flush against that edge. And I just need to glue it in place, and then I'll use abrasives, so sanding. I use my belt sander to get rid of the excess brass here. I don't want to go rough on it because that could make the petrified wood shatter. Alright, I'm just going to set this in place here. And now what I've got here, this is CA adhesive and it's an ultra thin viscosity. And that means it is thin enough that it can use capillary action to seep into the teeniest of just the smallest little cracks. So the way I will display this is you just seeing me dab this on the top here, but it's going to soak all the way through, and I'll prove it to you here in a sec. Let me harden it so it doesn't get all over me. If I flip this over, oh yep, there's a ton of it coming out. There's all sorts of glue coming out the bottom there. So it does an amazing job. We've got ourselves a really nice bond, a really nice seal, and this should be very durable. So I'll go ahead and trim this up, get it flush, and then we can work on getting this outer diameter down to a more reasonable ring size. Alright, so this next step, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I spent a little bit coming up with a strategy, and I think what I've got will work. So, I've got this tool holder here. I've mounted the ring onto one of my expanding ring mandrels. And I got this. I bought this like 6 months ago, and I didn't have any idea what I'd use it for. I just knew it'd come in handy, and this is just kind of like the perfect scenario for it. So it mounts in here, and then what it does is I'm able to take my Dremel, put it in here, and I just need to tighten this screw, and it clamps it down. But this will allow me to just slowly shave this down, and it's going to take quite a while. And I'm using these diamond bits here. I've got like 5 replacements, so hopefully that'll be enough. But I'm just going to slowly go over and just kind of trim it down. The reason why I don't want to just do it by hand without attaching it to the lathe here is because there's some harder and softer spots in the material. So what I'm going to be left with after removing the amount of material that I need to remove, I'm going to be left with high points and low points that are really annoying and difficult to get rid of. I have to get out like my dial indicator. So this should be a really good solution for this. Hopefully we can remove material fast enough that this will be an ideal solution. Alright, I think I'm actually there. Let me take this out and show it to you up close. You can see the thickness there. The petrified wood is probably just a hair thinner than the brass is now. So really thin. Like, this is not going to be a bulky ring, which I'm surprised. And it's held together wonderfully. I think this process just works really well for this material. You just have to be so gentle with it. And this wasn't gentle, but what I mean is you don't want to do anything jarring to it. So there was never any major impacts or anything like that. We just smoothly sanded away the material to the point where we've got it now. And I'm just blown away by how well this has worked so far. I'm really happy. I'm stoked. It is literally 3:30 a.m. And so I've been at this for quite a while, and setbacks would be really unfortunate and disappointing at this point. But I think we're in the home stretch now. I'm going to go ahead and kind of round off the corners a little bit. Then I'll sand it up. And sandpaper might not really do anything, so we'll see. But I'll do my best to sand it and give it the smoothest finish I can. And then I'll go to the inside, polish the brass up, make it look nice. I might leave it brushed, actually. We'll see. Brass can tarnish, and so sometimes I like to just give it a brushed look so it's just more rustic from the get-go. But we're in the home stretch. There's nothing too crazy or complex going on, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish it up without any more talking, and then we'll just have the grand reveal at the end. Alright guys, here it is finished. Gotta say, I am really relieved and just happy to see this turn out all in one piece. It's beautiful. You guys know I'm a fan of just like natural nature materials, and this is like the ultimate nature ring. It started out as wood, a living tree. That was a process by nature, and then nature did another process, turned it into stone. So I love this ring. Great pattern, great color. It's kind of tricky to get a feel for any of the wood grain on there, but you can kind of tell, especially if you compare it to the 2x4, the larger piece we made. You can kind of compare it to that and kind of get a feel of what is wood and which way the grain goes and all of that. But anyways guys, this is the ring finished. I hope you all really enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. This was a really quick turnaround project because we tried to launch this video with the water jet channel. So I'm sitting here, it's now, well, it's literally 4:31 a.m. So put a lot of work into this, but I gotta say, it was all worth it, all paid off. That looks great, and I love that brass liner. I'm really glad I decided to do that. And it's gonna make it strong enough that I'm not gonna be afraid to wear this. So win-win all over the place. Really big fan of this ring. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. If you guys didn't know, I've got a Kickstarter campaign going on right now, and I'm just trying to push that in all of my YouTube videos for the next little while because it's only going to be live for the next like 2 weeks or so. And we've got one of our best designs, most popular, successful designs we've ever made. It's one of my most liked Instagram posts of all time. It's the voltage ring, and we've got it at a really competitive price. It's cheaper than almost anything I've ever offered. So, and that's just for the Kickstarter. We're offering a 60% plus, I think it's over 60% off that we're offering for it. So there'll be a link to that in the description as well. You can check it out if you're interested. Anyways, I'll stop talking your guys' ear off. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.